Now going to question number 9, we always start with the prompt, and here it says, based on the text, what would the paleontologist in text 2 say about the initial thoughts in text 1? So what you want to do here is you want to get those initial thoughts first, and then go ahead and look through text 2 to find out what text 2 would say about those thoughts. So you want to follow the logical thought process here. So let's read text 1. A tiny, unusual fossil in a piece of amber is of the extinct species whatever, whatever. The fossil consists of a rounded skull with a thin snout and a large eye socket. Because these features look like they're avian or related to birds, researchers initially thought the fossil might be the smallest avian dinosaur ever found. So, what are the initial thoughts in this text? Researchers initially thought the fossil might be the smallest avian dinosaur ever found. So let's go ahead and see what text 2 is going to say about that. So text 2 now. Paleontologists were excited to discover a second small fossil that's similar to this one, but has part of the lower body along with the bird-like skull. Detailed studies of both fossils revealed several traits that are found in lizards but not in dinosaurs or birds. Therefore, paleontologists think the two creatures were probably unusual lizards, even though the skulls looked avian at first. So what's the belief in text 2? Because they had more information, they also had the lower body, and they found traits that are found in lizards. So now the secondary thinking is that they were probably unusual lizards, even though they looked avian, even though they looked like they were from birds. So let's look at the answers. A says, text 2 would say, it is understandable, the initial thoughts are understandable, because the fossil does look like it could be related to birds, even though it's probably a lizard. That sounds like a great summary of text 2, so we'll definitely keep that. B says that the initial thoughts are confusing because they aren't clear what caused the researchers to think they might be related to birds. Well, that doesn't work because text 2 admitted that they looked avian, that in other words, that it makes sense to think of them as bird fossils, even though we later found out that they weren't. C says that text 2 would say text 1 is flawed because the researchers mistakenly assumed that it must be a lizard. Well, technically, yes, it's flawed, but that's not the whole story. The whole story is more that they were understanding about the fact that the fossil looked avian at first, although with more information, we later found out that actually they're more likely lizards. So they're not really deeply criticizing. They're just kind of following the story to the next step, which is to say that even though, yeah, they look like they were bird fossils, they were actually something else. So D, text 2 would say that text 1 is reasonable because the skull is the same size as the skull of a second fossil, but is shaped differently. Well, it wasn't that there was a second fossil that was shaped differently. It was that there was a second fossil that had more information. In addition to the skull, now we're seeing the lower body. So D is not really a correct summary of what text 2 said about text 1. So the answer here is A.